Hello, Gov Seekers. What is up? I am back in the collapsing empire of the United States of America. Very excited. I got a nice $4 haircut in Hanoi. Guy went deep, went tight and deep. This haircut was 2 weeks ago, and this is how much has grown in. Yeah. So, you know, it is what it is. I mean, I haven't had hair this short since like shaving my head for a big game in high school football. I think it's the last time I had hair this short. So we got a big game coming up this weekend, guys. Gov Seeks has a big game. We're all shaving our heads. All right. We're back at our regularly scheduled time of whenever the show happens. So let's start it off. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Cameraman Secrets episode 177 with the two most censored comedians in America, Lee Camp and Graham Elwood.
Hey, man.
What's up, dude?
I already made fun of your hair last week, so no, 2 weeks ago, so I'll take this week off.
Did I cut it this short 2 weeks ago?
Yeah, I think it was that day.
Oh, that's
and I think I had a good 15-minute riff on your new Marine haircut.
It has not grown in at all. I mean, like, my hair grows pretty quick. This is nothing has happened.
That's one of the tricks of the Hanoi barbers. Is they put on a salve that stops all hair growth.
It is ridiculous, dude. But yeah, I'm back. I'm back in the US.
And couldn't be happier about it.
It's so great coming back here. I mean, the minute I've been back, I've had a handful of phone calls with friends, and like, Americans cannot help themselves to constantly talk about politics. I wasn't talking about this for a month. I was in Asia, not paying attention or giving a shit about what was happening in America at all. And the only people that talked politics with me were Americans. Oh, and one comedian who was from Czechoslovakia, he's part Czech and part Vietnamese. And we went out to lunch and we just talked about, it was right after Trump yelled at Zelensky. And even his point of view is like, he's like, look, I'm from Czechoslovakia and I come from a point of view of, Russia took over way too much and I'm not a fan. And even the way he discussed his perspective, which was different than mine, was not arguing, was not American. I'm right, you're wrong. And he heard my perspective. I was like, well, I just don't like the American war machine. I'm not a fan of Putin. He goes, oh, that's a cool perspective. It was like the most, I can never have a conversation with any American about this. And it was, so the minute I'm back, people are on the phone going, that Trump and I'm just like, oh, wow. All right.
Yeah, it's a little more stressful when you're talking about that shit all day long. I don't know. I mean, it's part of the reason that I'm less and less into the play-by-play, which is where the clicks are, is like, Trump said this, Elon Musk said that. I'm more into the deeper stuff because I think most of it is theater, not all of it, but most of it is just bullshit theater. And so I try and get to the deeper stuff, and but that means that the algorithm really rewards like the controversy of the day, and so that's not good for me.
I'm telling you, I've you and I have talked about it, I think, off camera, but like, coming back, I got back Sunday night and I was like, oh, Trump just signed the Bitcoin strategic reserve. I got to go live Monday and talk about this. And I just couldn't. Part of it is the jet lag is kind of kicking my ass. But like you say, the play-by-play, if I did a video about how Rachel Maddow wants war in Ukraine the day that Zelensky thing happened and jumped all over that, yes, my views and clicks would be up. I can't do it anymore. I really I love this show because it's fun and we're just talking about but like, I don't, And I'd be making more money and getting more clicks if I could go back to that guy that could do the, can you believe this? I don't, especially a month not paying attention and just, eating good food and, surfing in Vietnam and doing shows where I made in front of all expats where I just made fun of America. They loved it. No one was like arguing with me afterwards or anything. It was, yeah. I don't know.
I was in Tibet when the election happened. And so, and they're 12 hours ahead. So it happens like in the middle of the night or whatever. And I'm just like, I just like wake up. I'm like, oh, it's interesting. Trump won. All right. Like, and that was it. Like, like I had essentially zero coverage of it.
I know, dude. Like I went to this, I might've told you, I went to this Buddhist temple in Singapore, the Buddhist Tooth Temple. And I meditated for an hour with a friend of mine and just had this sort of epiphany of like, I need to come back to LA and help out at my martial arts studio that burned to the ground, and, I just want to do comedy and sell game. And I'm just like, I don't even know. And everyone's like flipping out.
You're gonna be running a green juice kiosk, like the ones with wheels that you cart down the street. Like any day now.
Did you ever watch the show Veep?
Yeah,
I love that show.
I mean, some of it. Yeah.
The final episode, like Gary Cole played this great like DC insider, and he's like fighting everybody tooth and nail. And then they flash to the future, and he shows up at her funeral or whatever, and he's like jean jacket, long hair, and he's like, yeah, man, I got an alpaca farm in Wyoming. He's just like completely checked out. And I feel like that's where I'm at. Like
it happens, man. It happens.
I'm really closely to signing up to taking my teacher training to become a yoga instructor. I'm really close to doing this.
That do it, man. I don't fault anyone for checking out anymore.
Not because I like, I'm gonna
look for me or a lot of people I know, if it's between becoming a yoga instructor and suicide, I feel like yoga instructor is a better choice. Like if you're gonna check out, check out into yoga instructor. Like
check out in this body and in this life. And it's not even like I want to be a yoga teacher. I don't want to be a yoga teacher, but I'm just like, I'd love to be certified to be one. And then
just to hold that over my head. Just one more thing, Graham.
I don't drink. I'm a vegetarian. I surf. I'm a yoga teacher. Meow, 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 meow. Yeah. So, and if I take the yoga teacher class, then I get free classes. So I'm like, maybe I should just take the teacher training to get free yoga classes.
Yeah.
But I need to, here's the weird thing.
You get certified to sell green juice in order to get some free green juice, aren't you?
But the thing is, the reality is I need to make a living. I need to make money. I just, yeah, I can't. Yeah. So.
I hear you. With a collapsing empire, it's, it gets weird.
And I was like, I'm going to move back to LA. And some people are like, why don't you just stay in Asia and never come back? And I'm like, no, there's stuff I want to do. And there's these projects I'm pitching. I'm in the Producers Guild now, and there's all this cool stuff. But I'm like,
I left my nunchucks under my pillow. I gotta go back for those.
Well, that's true. I was traveling throughout Asia without my nunchucks. So that I need to get back. But then I'm like, am I like some German businessman in 1935 going, no, this will iron itself out. You know what I mean? Like this will.
Yeah, it's tough to know.
And I don't think people are like, oh, Trump's going to throw us into camps. I don't think they're going to do the camps thing because we're already in one. We're in this casino gulag called late stage capitalism where we, you know what I mean? Yeah. Like we're already in a camp.
No, he as he's proven the last few days, he may start deporting people who show any kind of activism for Palestine or, against various things or for various things. But Yeah, they already have us for the most part where they want us. Like we're wage slaves stuck inside of this shithole.
Yeah.
And anyone who says like, hey, maybe we could get out and like have a positive, sustainable future, they're like, lunatic. And that's
Yeah. We're the lunatics in the death cult that is the United States of America.
you have to. Is it 1984? I'm misremembering where you kind of have to like if you aren't smiling walking into work, then they start to doubt you. So what's going on with him? He's not smiling.
Yeah, we just gotta walk around going, this is great. America's great. It's just
Fine.
great.
I'm happy.
I love it. I love having 5 jobs.
We got some exciting topics today.
We do, Lee. I'm for the first time, maybe you're the one doing the CIA topic and I'm not. I mean, this is
can't be the first time, but yeah.
One of it's we can count it on one hand. But this show is my highlight. I do like doing this show a lot.
Thank you.
Not with you. I'm looking for a new co-host.
Yeah, looking for a new person, but the show in general, not the co-host, but
the theme of the show is great.
But the show is actually, Lee, I've been meaning to mention Howie Mandel's taking over next week. Do you remember Steve-O from Johnny Knoxville? Steve-O is going to be in here.
There's a morning radio guy I worked with in Omaha on the Buzzsaw, and he's going to be fantastic in here. Yeah, I'm going to replace you with Steve-O. No, Tony Hinchcliffe wants me to do his new Nazis Are Not That Bad show or whatever, and so I'm
his new mediocre roast comedy is better than anything else out there. Yeah.
Oh God.
But no, this is a highlight for me as well. Because you get to, you know what it is nice is most of this is, minimum 10 years ago, but a lot of it's like 40 years ago. And you can kind of go, well, at least that's over, right? We can pretend we're not there anymore,
Yeah, we could just say, woo, thank God we're not doing that anymore. And the stuff we're reading about, it feels like each day something new in real time is happening that's probably worse than the stuff we're talking about from the past. It's like
sometimes, at times, yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Which we doing first?
Let's do the Panama Papers.
All right.
Because they seem super fun. Segment number 1, the Panama Papers. I was this morning, I was really on a kick. I wanted to find bank corruption, and man, I just went down this whole rabbit hole of
you were able to find some?
It was tough. I really had to do some digging. It wasn't just like, yeah, you just write bank scandal and like 400 pages of shit come up. And so I was like, which one do I pick? I found Andrew Jackson got into a war with there was a bank war. I read about that. I learned a lot this morning. So let me bring that up. All right. Oh, where is it? Sorry, I had to reboot my computer. Where is that?
Oh, Graham versus technology.
Oh, this
Season
is
5.
Really bad. This is really bad. There it is. My vision is getting worse, so I just don't like wearing my reading glasses. But it's the Panama Papers talking about the Mossack Fonseca which is a Panamanian law firm and corporate service provider. And at one time, it was the world's fourth largest provider of offshore financial services. And we know, Lee, that offshore financial services are never shady. There's nobody doing anything. There's no scams being run.
No. When you just call it offshore financial services out the gates, you know, it's like, why does it need to be offshore? Oh, because it'd be legal if it were in the U.S. Or in whatever country. Fill in the blank country.
Yeah, it's just an offshore account, and it's just like, all right, what are you hiding? What is the scam? So this this banking company was it was established in 1977 under the publication in the of the Panama Papers, which actually came out in April of 2016. So that's what this is about, the Panama Papers. It came out in April of 2016. And this company, very few people knew about it. It was in the shadows for a long time. And it was a major firm in the global offshore industry and acted for approximately 300,000 companies.
Just a tiny 300,000.
Just a smidge over 250,000 global companies all use this firm. So nothing shady was happening at all.
Nothing shady at all. They just wanted, these people just did the best work. So all the shady companies in the world wanted to work with them. There was nothing corrupt about it.
Nothing at all. They just do good business. They're a good company. We're going to punish people. You know what I mean? Maytag makes good dishwashers and stuff. A lot of people buy those. Is it a scam? Come on. So the International Consortium of Investigative Journalists published information called the Panama Papers. So these articles were the result of analyzing an enormous cache of documents dated from 1970 to 2015, which were leaked to the news media and which implicated at least 140 politicians from more than 50 countries in tax evasion schemes,
including Zelensky. So Zelensky is definitely a player in the Panama Papers.
I find that hard to believe because all I know about America, Trump bad, Zelensky good, right? Isn't it that simple? Isn't it everything that simple?
That sums it up.
The reaction by liberals, I mean, Trump calling out Zelensky, of course, he does it Trump style, like a reality TV show, and it's a big circus.
Yeah. I don't know if you did an episode, when I broke down that meeting between Zelensky and Trump, it's like, yeah, Trump's doing the right thing and that he's trying to end the proxy war. It's maybe one of the only correct things Trump is doing. However, the both sides I felt of the reaction to that meeting were just overkill. It's like liberals were like, how dare he insult Zelensky? And then right wingers and some independent so-called lefties were like, Trump's a hero. And it's like, no, how about these are both fucking ass clowns who are both doing, like, they're both speaking in half lies. They're both trying to represent something they're not. Like, one's a former game show host, the other's a former comedian, and the third guy was invented by Peter Thiel with a fake book about his life. Like, it's all fraud. One of them has orange makeup on, the other's dressed up like a military man, even though he's never been on the front lines. Like, and JD Vance has a guy liner on. Like, what is this? What is it?
I take a little umbrage at the game show host remark, but anyway, we'll let that slide.
It's fine to be a game show host, but Graham, you should not be president.
Sorry. Come on. I'd be great. Everybody would have tight haircuts. It'd be beautiful.
True. You'd ship America to Hanoi to get haircuts.
I'd have the presidential seal on a surfboard. It would be rad, dude. It'd be sweet. Yeah, it was just and just people like, Zelensky's our hero. Like, are you guys? What? Yeah. How America's so crazy. It's such a nut farm. But like, yeah, just the two-party system creates all this nonsense. So, this corrupt bank closed in March of 2018. when it was discovered a multi-billion-dollar money laundering scheme. Again, I'm shocked when you say offshore banking. I thought that would be completely above board.
Money laundering is just when they do someone's laundry and they pay in cash, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
You just don't want to put it on your card, so you just give the guy $10 to
Right.
get your shirts
So
done.
it's money laundering, right?
Yeah, that's what totally. That's a totally money laundering. Yep. It wasn't a majority of the comedy clubs I worked in the 90s.
Dude, I totally missed. I moved to New York in 2002, so I totally missed the days when they paid you in bags of Coke, and that seems like a fun time.
There was a club, they would take you down to the basement, and this is before anything was in writing, it was all over the phone, and he'd put his gun on the table, he'd have his two like goons behind him, and whatever, let's say you agreed on $350 for a week of MC spots, and he'd go, we said 300, right?
With the gun and the goons.
With the gun and the goons on him. And I know, because I would always, this was in another city, it wasn't in Chicago, but it was nearby, and I'd say, I knew enough mob guys and, crooked cops or whatever to go, nah, we said 350, man.
And did he go with the 350?
Yeah, he did.
He did. See, I had heard the story of, I think, Big J, where they just pulled him into a room and was like, he owed like 300, and they're like, we're giving you 50. And I think he like kept demanding it, and then they like kicked his ass or something. Like,
wow.
It's just horrible shit.
Oh, dude. I mean, there was a club where, it used to be, it was mobbed up. And after the third show on Saturday, someone would come up the back staircase. And I remember one time, like, I was emceeing or something. So I had to run downstairs to do the show. And I come back and they're just like, the comic was just like, I heard the door close, and I said, who came up the back staircase this late? And they just looked at me and went, oh, got it.
Yeah, I did have he was kind of an agent in Britain, and he helped me get all these gigs, and I did a bunch of touring in the UK, and he helped me get my visa sorted out for all the touring and everything. And then once I'd flown back to the US, he proceeded to try and steal about half the income from the trip from me. And it took me like 6 months of like calling him daily and harassing him. And he came up with every excuse. Oh, I just got cancer. Oh, the cancer makes it hard to go to the bank, or like just, and apparently he was known for this.
Oh, getting bank cancer? He would get bank cancer a lot?
I got cancer of the bank account. It's awful. Yeah.
I got to get chemo on my checking account, and it's just like, I can't get after it. It's really hard. Oh yeah, I work for all those crooked dudes. Anyway, the firm was founded by German lawyer Jürgen Mosak and Panamanian novelist and lawyer Ramon Fonseca. And they later added a third guy, a lawyer from Switzerland.
Of course. Germany and Switzerland is where you go for this stuff.
Yeah, does Switzerland did they have a history of like money laundering and holding crooked money? Have they?
Nope, just fondue. Nothing but fondue.
And really good skiing. Okay.
It's a real fondue ski economy.
Yeah, a lot of Nazis just kept their fondue pots in those banks during World War II. The firm specialized in commercial law, trust services, investor advisory, and international business structures. No, that international business structure is.
It sounds like something James Bond would tell someone at a dinner party when they ask what he does for a living. International business structures.
It's like, I remember meeting like a mob guy when I was a kid, and anyway, I had a family member that dated one of his sons or whatever, and I asked him like, "What do you do?" And he goes, "Oh, I'm in construction."
Yep.
I was like, okay,
and with a wink.
I'm in construction, and he's always talking about golfing and during the day, and I was like, "Really? You get all this free time during the day?" I was a kid, I didn't know. I'm in construction. I'm in international business structures, Lee. That's all you need to know. Don't ask it. There's
Mhm.
any more questions than that you don't want to ask. And they offered intellectual property protection and maritime law services. Oh, so there's no drug smuggling. There's nothing shady. Again, there's no
Maritime law services. Dude, that's the best euphemism for smuggling cash to the Cayman Islands. Like,
and again, this is in Panama, which I think has like a little canal or something. Like, I don't know if any cargo ships going through this country. No.
which, by the way, the U.S. government, BlackRock, new piracy alliance just bought the ports on each side of the Panama Canal, or the ports, so that they can basically shut down the Panama Canal for anyone they want.
That's great. Yeah, so if you have any maritime services lead, these guys can. These guys can.
That's that is a great euphemism for sex trafficking.
And just illegal weapons and whatever else, man. According to The Economist, the firm had 5 to 10% of the global shell company market.
Nice.
They had offices in China and several in Latin America and in the United States and Europe, and 2 in Switzerland. They also established operations in the British Virgin Islands. Again, nothing creepy has happened in the Virgin Islands at all. Nothing illegal, no Epstein Island, nothing.
I went in 2012. I went with a small group to do a short documentary on the Cayman Islands and the tax havens there, and we got some funny stuff. But the best was going into, there's one location, one building, one address in the Cayman Islands where something like, I can't remember, it was 65,000 or 90,000 businesses all say that's their headquarters, like that's their home address. And it's like a 1-story building that has like 3 offices in it. And I remember we're filming out front, and I'm like, there's 65,000 businesses inside there. They must have desk chairs the size of blueberries. How do they fit everyone in this building? And we went out there and went in there with cameras, and they were not happy about it.
Of course not. Yeah. That's hilarious. Just so that naive. I mean, they don't have enough bathrooms for everybody.
The bathroom situation must just be epic.
Where's is there offsite parking? I mean, where is everyone? Are they taking a shuttle bus?
Yeah, I know. There's like 3 workers that seem to be there right now. I guess everyone else has the day off. Thank you, Gertrude's Diddy, for the donation.
Thank you, Gertrude. So this is where it started people started to wake up to who they were. The firm had allegedly helped foreign citizens circumvent their local tax laws and sometimes even international sanctions. You're doing a lot to get sanctioned. You're not just a guy that's like trying to get out of some parking tickets if you're getting sanctioned.
Yeah.
The firm's founder argued that it simply helps its clients achieve privacy and that it complied with the KYC, Know Your Customer regulations. In October of 2020, Germany finally issued arrest warrants for the 2 founders. But here's when it started to fall apart. In 2014, the corporate services was subpoenaed by a hedge fund seeking to recover money from the Argentinian government. The fund alleged that MF had created shell companies to pass money from the government to Lazaro Baez, an ally of the Kircher family. Jürgen Massak testified under oath that MF Corporate Services in Nevada, another state with solid, no scam, no nothing, had no affiliation with the Panamanian Mossack Fonseca, but the Panamanian papers showed that it was in fact wholly owned subsidiary. The Mossack Fonseca tried to hide the relationship, ordering emails and other computer footprints deleted. How big was their paper shredder? That's always what I heard.
It was the same size as the office building with 65,000 offices in it. That
I just picture
the paper shredder and the building are the same size.
one of those things that the city uses to shred like trees.
I know what it was. It was the shredder that Israel used to shred the cars from October 7th. Because Israel said the hundreds of cars were shredded and buried.
That happens
for environmental purposes, of course.
Of course, yeah, always for the environment. Despite Mossack Fonseca's claim that it did not own MF Corporate Services, a Nevada judge ruled that the subpoena against them was valid. The firm was fighting in order to turn over the details of 123 shell companies created by an associate of former president of Argentina. Argentina, again, they've had some pretty solid government stuff. In February 2015, the firm was implicated in the German government's investigation of money laundering and tax evasion schemes at Commerzbank. And then Petrobras, this was part of Operation Car Wash. In January 2016, employees of the firm's Brazilian office were charged with relation to the ongoing Petrobras Corporation. Again, an oil company being involved in bank fraud. Again, that shocks me to my core. In that case, a judge alleged that Mossack Fonseca provided services for the opening of offshore societies, and at least 4 agents were involved in a scheme to launder money. The firm had responded that the Brazilian office is a franchise and not controlled by the main office in Panama. The firm's founder resigned from his advisory position to the Panamanian government to focus on the Brazilian allegations. Then it's when the German newspapers, when the Panama Papers leak happened on April 3rd of 2016, announced that 11.5 million confidential documents from the firm had been leaked to them, which this became the Panama Papers. And the conspiring documents dated from 1970s to the present. The 2.6 terabytes of data was given in 2015 by an anonymous source because of the amount of data. The German newspaper, which is Bundesschreiber Zeitung, we'll call it SZ, enlisted the help of the Washington-based international conservative journalists. And so, yeah, 90% of the clients compromised professional clients, such as international financial institutions and trust companies and prominent law and accounting firms who act as intermediaries and regulate in the jurisdiction of the business. Yeah, so that's pretty much it. Then they in March 18th, they got shut down after all of the allegations. And in October 2020, that's when they issued arrest warrants. So, yeah, this was made into a movie, The Laundromat, by Steven Soderbergh. But yeah, that's
and some people have found it odd that there's not a lot of Americans involved in this, but I think that might just have to be with which company the leak came from. Like certain companies that are involved in money laundering and all this shit are used more often by Americans or American businesses, and some are not. The other thing is that, like, compared to some countries, Delaware works fine. Like Delaware and some U.S. states. So some of these companies don't have to go through some offshoring thing when they could just send their stuff to Delaware. Like
Delaware or Nevada.
Yeah.
It's
so there can be some reasons that there's not that many Americans in it without it meaning that, like, the U.S. government, created the Panama Papers.
I think what this meant was, since it was a German newspaper that went after it, they were looking at German citizens. And since it was so big, like they said, 2.6 terabytes of data, I'm sure there's a bunch of Americans in there. And the fact that they had shell companies set up in Nevada, I bet you that was part of, I wouldn't be surprised if the United States kind of went like, well, let's just kind of push that.
Yeah. What you may have had more than, like, not that many Americans within it is, like you said, it's so much data. It may have just been that our media entities, the ones that actually had access to the Panama Papers, focused on the things that were not indicting of Americans.
Yeah, I'm sure there was like the parent companies of some of these media outlets were involved in this or something like that.
Right,
So
right.
they're just like, let's make it a bunch of corrupt Germans.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
Segment number 2, Lee Camp, Charles Manson, and the CIA.
So there's a pretty good documentary out now on Netflix. Maybe some people saw it. Just came out recently about the connection between CIA's Operation Chaos and Charles Manson. It's based on a book called Chaos by Tom O'Neill, and it's I'm gonna give a bunch of the details, but I will say that, like, with the Charles Manson thing, I was like, a lot of this just seems too convenient for what the US ruling elite wanted at the time. I mean, this is a time of the Black Panthers. It's the time of hippies becoming more political. It's the time of protests against Vietnam, etc. It's the time of communism becoming more prevalent around the world in various ways. And it's like the US ruling elite at this time really wanted to shut down the Black Panthers, to shut down just activists of all stripes in the 1960s, to shut down kind of this social awakening that was going on. You know, not every hippie was political. In fact, most were not. But simply going outside of what was kind of the acceptable, life trajectory of your average American, that in a way was harmful to the ruling elite who wanted the status quo to remain as is in terms of, class ownership, etc.
well, you think about, I mean, we've talked about it before, but I mean, the 60s, JFK gets elected and it's this like, oh, Camelot, it's this new era of America, and he's assassinated, and it was very and everybody was like questioning it. So you start with the Cuban Missile Crisis, you start with the Bay of Pigs, you start with the Kennedy assassination, then you go into, then Malcolm X assassinated, then MLK. Bobby,
Yep.
and all Vietnam protests escalating during that whole time, just getting bigger and bigger and bigger. More kids, people checking out the hippie movement, getting more radicalized from just like free love to like being very political. The Black Panthers
getting more powerful. Yep.
Yeah, all of this stuff happening. I mean, the 60s was an insane era if you think about all the stuff that went down. I mean, 4 huge assassinations. I mean, like a total upheaval of government, Vietnam protests, the Kent State. I mean, then Watergate. I mean, just was like, it was bananas. So like, you can see where the government went, whoa, we're losing control here.
Yeah. And of course, we've done segments on the actual like internal documents, that they put out, or reports they put out, saying essentially that they needed to recapture control of the narrative, the Trilateral Commission, the Powell memo, and these things all work in tandem. They all work together of a ruling class that wanted to re-exert their control.
Yeah, J. Edgar Hoover,
yeah,
all that stuff.
Matthew Morey in the chat's reminding us of Fred Hampton and Huey P. Newton.
Yep.
But so it always stunk as kind of a little too convenient that, Charles Manson, who held himself, dressed and in certain ways behaved like a hippie. I don't want to pretend he was just like, he was just yelling free love. He also would talk regularly about a race war, but this character who kind of portrays himself as a hippie then sends, other hippies to go murder completely innocent people. Not that it didn't happen. I'm not saying they didn't murder them, but it just seemed like there must be more we're not getting out of this. Like something more must be going on. So we know the FBI had COINTELPRO. We've done episodes on that, and everyone should check them out. Where CIA had a similar operation called Operation Chaos. And so I'm going to read from a Jacobin article, an interview with Tom O'Neill, the author of this book, Chaos. And so Tom O'Neill says the official narrative is that Manson was upset that he hadn't gotten a record deal with this producer. Supposedly that was the reason for the first murder site. The producer that had said no to him. And Charles Manson was like actually had apparently not bad music. The Beach Boys stole one of his songs, kind of like he worked with one of the Beach Boys drummer, and who thought he was excellent. And they kind of took one of Charles Manson's songs. They paid him for it, but they didn't put him as the writer, so he didn't get any royalties. So, you know, he had some music chops, apparently. This producer says no to him.
So what you're saying is he was just sort of like Hitler. They were both just sort of disenfranchised artists.
Absolutely. Oh my God. If Hitler had gotten into art school and if Manson had gotten a recording contract, different world.
None of this would have happened.
Different world.
So, hey, Hollywood, maybe give more artists deals. You know what I mean?
And if Elon Musk had just been accepted into that interpretive dance, resort that he was trying to start.
Yes, then he wouldn't be an autistic Nazi. So that's all we're saying.
Yeah, he'd be fine. Anyway, so the murder site of the Tate murder, Sharon Tate and the others, was the house that Terry Melcher had been living in. And there's some arguments. Did Manson know Terry Melcher had left, or was he trying to kill Terry Melcher? It doesn't really matter that much. But now the prosecutor of Manson, who ultimately in the courtroom wrote a book that it was all part of starting a race war, right? These were all efforts to start a race war in America. He called it Helter Skelter. They wrote in blood on the walls, pigs. They were trying to make people think that the Black Panthers were the ones who did the murders of white people. And so that would kick off this race war that Manson was sure was coming. But Tom O'Neill, he's been researching this for like 20 years. He believes that it's not that Manson never talked about a race war. It's just that was not his actual reason for these murders. Bugliosi, who was actually one of Manson's followers who did the first murder before the Tate murders. He told two journalists that he didn't believe Manson truly believed the Helter Skelter theory. But what those journalists did not ask is why Manson sent those people to those places to kill people if he didn't want to ignite a race war. One of my early revelations when I was able to get access to Manson's parole file after a couple of years worth of FOIA requests, you really have to devote your life to these things, was that Manson had already been in prison, right? He was in prison for other stuff before all this. He gets out of prison. He's on parole. And despite continually breaking his parole, they never lock him back up. They keep saying it's fine. During the first year, he basically did whatever he wanted with the blessing of his parole officer, who would look the other way while he was recruiting underage women to follow him and steal for him. So at this time, he's in San Francisco. He's in Haight-Ashbury, and he's got these underage girls that are basically follow around after him like they're his servants, and they're stealing all the time because they have no money. And he, despite the fact that this was known, he never gets put back in prison. They just keep him out. The parole officer's just like, yeah, he's fine. It's all good. He was arrested a few times that year. Roger Smith, the parole officer, recommended parole revocation, so sending him back to jail. Should have recommended, but never did. Instead, he wrote to his superiors in Washington, D.C. and tried to get Manson to be allowed to go live in Mexico, where obviously he couldn't be supervised. His superiors thought Roger was crazy. But then you also have Susan Atkins, who's one of the main murderers in the Tate murders. She was prior to that, she was also involved in the murder of Gary Hinman. Her parole officers recommended revoking her federal parole, then her probation. The first prior to her meeting Manson, the second afterwards, because she had violated her probation with complete abandon. Both times, the case went before the original judges who had sentenced her to parole. In both cases, the judges not only didn't consider it violations, but they ended her parole and probation. It was like she was being rewarded for violating her parole.
This reeks of like when we did, JFK and the Unspeakable, how Oswald comes back from Russia after defecting and saying, I'm selling out America. And they just, oh, here's your passport, in the height of the Cold War.
Yeah. They comes back after he was a Marine, and he was also involved in the top secret, was it the U-2 spy plane? Or I can't remember the name of the plane, but he was involved in the top secret plane that the U.S. had. He then defects to Russia, where you would think the U.S. government and U.S. military would be like, oh my God, he knows everything about our top secret plane. Yeah. And instead, he comes back to the U.S. and they're like, hey, welcome back. They actually gave him some money to like restart his life. Like,
yeah, here's a new passport. Thank you.
Odd. So Tom O'Neill then says he brings all this Manson in and out of jail free card stuff to a retired deputy DA who had actually gone on to become a judge in Los Angeles. And in the interview with me, he says, you can often blame things like this on bureaucratic red tape or incompetency, but what you're showing me here is a pattern, and it's a joke. It's clear they deliberately wanted him out of jail and free. I can't tell you why this happened, but it isn't a mistake. Somebody wanted him out there. What you need to do is find out who it was. FBI, Sheriff's Department, LAPD, CIA. Who was it that wanted Manson out and free? So Operation Chaos was an operation started by Richard Helms, the director of the CIA, in 1967. It's created to neutralize the Black Panthers, the Black activist movement more broadly, and the anti-war movement. Launched by Helms with the knowledge of both President Johnson and Ronald Reagan, who was then governor of California. Meanwhile, FBI Director Edgar Hoover had his COINTELPRO going. COINTELPRO was specifically targeting the Panthers in Los Angeles. A year before the Tate LaBianca murders, the Manson murders, they infiltrated a group called Satan's Slaves, who was jockeying for power with the Panthers. The CIA instigated the murder of 2 members of Satan's Slaves on the campus of UCLA by making the Panthers believe that a meeting that they were going to be attacked by the slaves. So basically, they got both groups to think they were about to be attacked by the other group. They set up a meeting. Then the 2 groups end up killing 2 people. Good job, CIA. Hoover's memo basically later, Hoover's memo says, we have to make these whites. So, sorry, I skipped a little part where it says more and more celebrities were coming on to the cause of the Black Panthers and the various activists, Jane Fonda, Warren Beatty, Donald Sutherland. And Hoover's internal memo says, we have to make these whites believe that once the revolution really does begin, they're going to be the first ones lined up against the walls and slaughtered. Basically, we need to make sure these rich and powerful, famous white people stop siding with Black Panthers.
I mean, that's the kind of stuff, that's kind of Hoover's bread and butter, that kind of business. It's just like, and pitting these groups against each other, man. Wow. That's just glad that's like page 1. That's a great,
pit them against each other, infiltrate them.
Yep.
So the interviewer asks O'Neill about why would Manson be useful to Operation Chaos. O'Neill says, I haven't definitely proved that he was part of Chaos or COINTELPRO. However, what he did, meaning the murders, aligned with the objectives of both these groups, which basically wanted to turn society against the young hippie movement. They wanted people to think of them not as harmless young kids with long hair, smoking pot, experimenting, but rather as dangerous boogeymen out to kill your daughters or abduct your kids. The FBI, and in particular COINTELPRO, were trying to make whites really fear the Black Panthers, to make them think the Panthers were much more dangerous than they were. And you and I have done at least one segment and talked about it several times about how the Black Panthers carrying guns was a tiny part of what the Black Panthers did. Most of what they did was meals and community schools and stuff like that.
Yeah, keep their community safe,
Yeah.
protect each other and stuff like that. And look, man, this tactic worked because after the Manson killings, people always say that's the day the 60s died.
Yeah.
You know,
It totally worked.
that's when, and you know, look, it happened here in LA, up in Topanga. Topanga was this or at Laurel Canyon and stuff like that, was this hippie community, and everyone was like, and when that happened, everyone started putting locks on their doors. Everybody was like, we're not safe. Everybody got suspicious, and it was like, it worked.
Yeah. So
Thank you, Denise.
Then O'Neill brings up a shadowy man named Reeve Whitson. He says, I'm able to show that he was working with the police closely from the day the bodies were discovered at the Tate House onward. He's called Walter Kern by Robert Helder. So that's an alias, Walter Kern, who was the head of the Tate homicide investigation team for the LAPD and later wrote an unpublished book with Paul Tate, Sharon Tate's father, who investigated his daughter's murder himself with Kern. Helder says that he was some kind of groupie or informant. He had died a few years before I began reporting, but I learned that he had told the people closest to him, his attorney and a couple of family members and close friends, that his dying regret was that he had been involved in an operation against the left-wing movement, that he had infiltrated the Manson family and had been involved with them prior to the murders, and that he felt he could have prevented the Tate LaBianca murders. He even said that he was at the crime scenes before the bodies had been recovered by the police. He did a FOIA request to the CIA about this, and they said they could neither confirm nor deny that this guy was part of the CIA or an informant of the CIA.
Oh, that's like such a guilty thing. I can either confirm or deny. All right, guilty. You're guilty. You're guilty.
Yeah.
You're guilty.
But then it gets into the to me, the most important part of all this. MK Ultra was first exposed to the public in 1976 by a whistleblower, a State Department guy, and then reported by the New York Times, which dropped the bombshell that there had been a secret program conducted by the CIA to learn how to control people's behavior using drugs, sensory deprivation, and hypnotism. We've covered this before. We covered it with Sirhan. We covered it with other segments, but the article named 8 or 9 scientists, psychiatrists, and drug researchers who had been contracted by the CIA to conduct experiments on people without their knowledge or informed consent. So these are the 8 or 9 top psychologists using these techniques to literally create mind control, to erase people's minds, to change their wants, their needs, their motivations. And of these just 8 or 9, one of them is a guy named Dr. Lewis Jolly West. He goes, nickname's Jolly, so most people knew him as Jolly.
Hey, let's get Dr. Jolly in here to train people who've been turned to be Manchurian candidates.
To give this prisoner some jollies, as we call it.
Let's turn this guy into a murdering psychopath. Get Dr. Jolly in here. This will be great.
Jolly really did some good work. It's made people happy, and yeah. So Jolly West was a psychiatrist who came out of the Air Force. He went to his grave denying to everyone that he had ever been part of MK Ultra or used LSD on humans. Yet, Tom O'Neill discovered that he had been in the same place at the same time that Manson became who he was. Someone able to control people's behavior and get them to commit the murder of strangers on command. So Jolly West, who says he never did any of that, we know from the New York Times expose and other information that he actually was one of the MK Ultra scientists. And he finds out, once he gets the papers, once Tom O'Neill gets the papers of Jolly West after he died, he finds out that he finds his letters between him and Dr. Sidney Gottlieb, who ran MK Ultra, and who in fact started MK Ultra in 1950. West was there from 52 to 53. He was the main researcher for the program. I reviewed all their correspondence showing that his whole career had been based on lies. West had been secretly funded by the CIA for about 20 years to do these Nazi-style experiments on patients and other people. Many or almost all of them didn't know they were being experimented on. He opened a kind of safe house in Haight-Ashbury in 1967. Around the same time, Manson emerged there and maintained an office at the Haight-Ashbury Free Clinic, where Jolly West regularly recruited subjects for his research. And it was the Haight-Ashbury Free Clinic where Manson was directed to go for his weekly meetings with his parole officer, Roger Smith, the same PO who we talked about earlier, who declined to revoke Manson's parole despite all of his criminality. Smith was actually doing amphetamines research through the free clinic at the same time he was supervising Manson's parole, or rather not supervising it, instead letting him do whatever he wanted and form a group of sociopathic killers. And you also have to understand that, and you learn this from the documentary, that it's not like anyone in this free clinic would not have known Charles Manson. Charles Manson, first of all, he's bizarre to begin with, but he controls either because people believe him or because people think he's psychotic. He controls a room. Like, he walks in the room, everyone's paying attention to him. But on top of that, how many people have a gaggle of like vacant-eyed, servile, flattering underage women following behind them? Okay, he was a scene, man. This was a scene. So.
And he had the eyes. He had the crazy guy eyes.
Guy eyes. I don't think he'd carved the swastika on his forehead at that point.
That hadn't happened, no. But yeah, any dude walks in with those eyes and like a team of young girls who are all following him, you would remember that dude. You would absolutely remember that guy.
But so everyone there would have known him, and the odds that one of the CIA's main testing sites for MK Ultra mind control is the same goddamn room as Charles Manson visits weekly before he goes using mind control, goes and murders multiple people. The odds of that are catastrophic.
Well, I don't know, Lee. I mean, maybe they just office space was cheap. You know, I mean, it was expensive and they had to split office, a co-working space. It was a co-working space.
Yeah. Same as Panama Papers. All those businesses were in there.
Yes. Yes, Lee. Don't be so cynical.
So the Haight-Ashbury Free Clinic was run by David Smith, despite his claims that he never accepted any government grants. So, okay. The guy running the Haight-Ashbury Free Clinic says, never got any government grants.
So this is the clinic, by the way, that was staffed by Nazis that were brought here through Operation Paperclip, just so we're clear, right?
Probably, yeah. Probably. Why does every doctor in this clinic have a thick German accent? What's up with that?
Why does he like leather? And
why do they all have fake long hair wigs on and thick German accents?
Why do they always say stuff like, your papers are not in order? Why do they always say stuff like that?
So O'Neill found the funding papers for the Haight-Ashbury Free Clinic, and they were being funded by the government, which the CIA often would. The CIA wouldn't fund things directly. They'd go through government agencies. So this is likely CIA funding for the clinic. You know, and if you picture our ruling elite trying to figure out how to destroy the hippie movement, well, they're going to want a bunch of informants in the biggest, most popular and powerful hippie groups, or the Black Panther groups, or various groups, and they're going to want a location that they can just kind of watch everything, observe everything, get to know the players. And so opening a free clinic in Haight-Ashbury, perfect. West once called the place a laboratory disguised as a hippie crash pad. Another psychiatrist there, James Allen, told me, we all saw Charlie every day. According to him, there was no way that Jolly West didn't know who Manson was, given that Manson was going to the clinic 2 or 3 times a week with his girls to get treatment for STDs, pregnancies, and other things. So there's zero belief that Jolly West didn't know of and have a lot of contact with Charles Manson. So if that's the case, you then have to, in order to believe that Charles Manson had nothing to do with CIA, MK Ultra, whatever, you'd have to believe that Jolly West, the guy trying to create mind control using LSD and many other drugs and techniques, just happens to see the guy who is most famous for creating mind control using LSD and other techniques that ultimately created horrific murders, sees him almost every day and has no interest in him. and just like, hey, Charlie, yeah, see you later.
No, I don't know. There's a lot of people come and go in the office. You're not gonna
Yeah, he sees Charles Manson and he goes, man, I gotta achieve what he's achieved with these women. I wish I knew how. I just wish I knew.
His name was Jolly. I just picture a Burl Ives looking guy, like a holly jolly Christmas.
So something else they don't mention in this article, but it is mentioned in the documentary, is that this guy, Jolly West, he was the doctor, the psychiatrist, who's sent to meet with Jack Ruby, the assassin of Oswald, weeks before Jack Ruby is going to testify to the Warren Commission. And Jolly goes in there and there's video of him coming out of the meeting with Ruby, and he comes out and he goes, yeah, he's had a break with reality. He's just completely insane. So Jolly West goes in. Jack Ruby seems completely sane. He may be saying things that scare people, but he seems completely sane. Jolly West spends a few hours with him. Now he's insane. Also, I don't know whether this was Jolly West, but this may be the. Actually, I am suspicious that this is actually, this next thing I'm about to say is what got Tucker Carlson pushed out of Fox News. Tucker Carlson's segment may be the only. I think it definitely is the only mainstream media segment that has ever connected the CIA to the death of Jack Ruby. And he says the guy that was seeing Jack Ruby regularly, Jack Ruby dies a couple of years later before he's going to testify before another committee. And he becomes riddled with cancer in a matter of months, maybe weeks. Suddenly Jack Ruby is just covered in cancer. And a doctor had been going to see him regularly and giving him injections. Now, I don't know what he told Ruby the injections were for, but maybe anxiety or something. But
it's a vitamin shot, and there's just like cancers crossed out with a Sharpie, and then it says vitamins. It's like, don't worry about this.
Why is it glowing green with a picture of the Incredible Hulk on it?
Yeah, don't worry about it, Jack. You're doing great work.
It's vitamins.
They're green. It's green juice.
It's green juice. Yeah. This is kale. This is kale, glowing green kale. So that doctor who was giving him the shots that seemed to have a connection with him being riddled with cancer and dying was revealed to be CIA. Now, I don't remember from Tucker Carlson's segment whether it was Jolly West. I don't think it was, or they probably would have mentioned that in the documentary. So this is another psychiatrist who no one knew was CIA. We find out after he dies, oh, the CIA was going to see Jack Ruby on a weekly basis, and suddenly he's riddled with cancer. So.
These are all totally explainable coincidences that the guy that Jack Ruby and like we've always talked about, we always joke about this, but it needs to be brought up again. So they admit to doing MK Ultra. They admit that they did this.
Well,
and
once they got caught.
They got caught, of course. But it's common knowledge. It's on Wikipedia. This is a program they did. And then we're all supposed to believe they figured out a way to control people to commit murder and all this awful shit. And then they went, let's shut it down.
Shut it down.
Yeah.
Shut it down.
Don't get the research even more, and don't use it for, let's say, I don't know, social media. I mean, there's no way all of the crap that happens on social media, when you just see some wave happen on social media, and then there's this new bizarre trend, there's no way. It's one thing if it's just a dance. Okay, that started in somebody's kitchen. Haha. But when it's some weird trend, all of these things that are keeping Americans completely fighting about these insane issues.
Yeah.
Like it is so contrived.
Or somebody that I think people would call them controlled opposition, like the type of people that show up out of nowhere and suddenly they're saying, tangential things to like stuff I or you are covering, and they're suddenly getting millions of views. And you're
Yes.
like, how is it they're not suppressed at all? And it's like, but why don't you look at the stuff they're not talking about?
Yeah. And then
Thank you, Eddie.
Thank you, Eddie. Well, yeah, there's several people like that just showed up out of nowhere and then went from 0 to 200, 300,000 subscribers very quickly. I'm not mentioning names, Kim Iverson, but they just shot up out of nowhere and suddenly.
Man, my screen shut off.
Nice.
You can keep talking.
And then like.
We're going to do trees for the last 5 minutes.
Oh, I like it. I like a good forest. And then the thing about those folks, they agree and agree and agree, but then they eventually will be in some big fight that divides everybody. That's
yeah.
And maybe they're the loudest activists. They're pushing for the big cause, but they always end up somehow getting the group fighting with each other.
Because I don't want to go too long. Let me just finish this up real quick.
Okay.
But yes, I think that and a myriad other ways to just split everybody up, make sure there's no unity.
Yeah.
But a psychiatrist, Alan, this is the last part, Shefflin, who wrote one of the first books on MK Ultra called The Mind Manipulators, he said, I asked him, do you think Manson was a CIA experiment gone wrong? Do you think Manson somehow had access to what the CIA was doing? Like, were they experimenting on him, or was he like somehow got access to how to mind control people? Maybe the technology was shared with him, or maybe he was part of an experiment. But obviously, I don't think the CIA would have wanted what happened to happen the way it happened, meaning the horrific murders of Tate and others. An actress 8 months pregnant, stabbed 7 or 8 times. And Shefflin responded, I don't think it was an experiment gone wrong. I think it was an experiment gone right.
Well, yeah,
for them. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you always got to look at what was the end result. The end result was the hippie movement was dead. People stopped trusting each other. You know what I mean? Like the activists were scared. And so you got to look at
they were able to ramp up the drug war.
They were able to ramp up the drug war. Average Americans were suddenly scared of the hippies, and our daughters are going to go into cults and whatever else. And so you look at the end result. It's like, we've talked about this before. I mean, what was the end result of 9/11? $10 trillion spent on the global war on terror for 20 years.
Yeah. Yeah. No, you need to look a few moves down the chessboard. Absolutely.
And then you go, oh, this wasn't a blown op. This guy went off the reservation. It was like, oh, this is exactly by design.
And if you were going to create something like this, for one thing, like my biggest question would be, why would Charles Manson never mention that he was a part of this? Because he talked about seemingly everything else. They've done a pretty good job. You and I'm not going to spend time on it, but you and I talked a bunch about hypnosis and mind control and how it can work on certain people. And we talked about that in the Sirhan episode, so people can look that up, the murder of RFK. But one of the key things that they absolutely can do, I mean, we've seen this proven time and time again, is they can get people who are well hypnotized, those who are especially well hypnotized, they can get them to forget things. Like,
yeah, easy.
People can legitimately be hypnotized and do something so incredibly humiliating in front of a crowd and be laughed at, and then afterwards they're perfectly fine. There's no shame. They have no idea. They've proven this again and again and again. So could they get, Charles Manson? Like, maybe they didn't know exactly who he was going to target. Maybe they set him up to target, people to show that hippies murder people, and then they let him loose on the world. I don't know.
Well, yeah, I mean, if we're going to accept the fact that MK Ultra is real and they admitted to it and that it can force people to do things, then why wouldn't they be able to? Because of course, look, if we can make somebody commit these heinous crimes, we don't want them to also go, oh yeah, I was brainwashed and the CIA made me commit crimes. We would also want to wipe their brain clear to go, no, I'm the chosen one. I did this because I was meant to be or whatever.
Right.
So the CIA is not going to have what they call blowback.
And let's just wrap up by saying we would be remiss to not mention that that we have done a segment before on how the Unabomber was part of MK Ultra when he was a student at Harvard. He was like a young student, like 16 years old, because he was a genius, and so they sent him there early, and was completely screwed up, manipulated, was never the same, and I don't believe that they intended for him to behave the way he did ultimately in his life. I think they were just seeing if they could mind control people, how much they could screw them up, how much they could, destroy their personalities, etc. And he was kind of collateral damage. Like,
yeah, could be that he was a subject that when they went off the reservation, they couldn't control him and he just did awful shit. Or they went, hey, let's just
it was so many years later. It was years and years later, but yeah.
Or maybe they just said, let's just release this guy into the wild. Who cares?
Yeah, true. Well, all right. We are going to head over and do some extra content real quick at patreon.com/government secrets. The moment you sign up there, you can get a mug, but you could you unlock 70 some extra segments.
Yes. So go to patreon.com/government secrets. Everything gets unlocked as soon as you can join us for as little as $5 a month. Stickers, mugs, and the like. The t-shirt, and this has been
Government Secrets, episode 177. Chuck Manson goes a little nutty for the CIA, and some good guys doing some banking down in Panama.
And for those of you who don't know, I have brought back Redacted Tonight, except it's now called Unredacted Tonight. It airs every Thursday, and there are 3 episodes already out that you could watch right now. I would just go to linktree.com/LeeCamp because it's right at the top. Linktree.com/LeeCamp.
Yeah, and I just got back from Asia, so I'm releasing interviews with people and footage from the shows and all this cool travel footage I'm going to be releasing. So I've already released a bunch of interviews, like eating food and talking about different cultures. So check that out at my YouTube and my new YouTube channel, Planet Comedy, which is youtube.com/Planet Comedy, where it's just going to be more travel and comedy and stuff like that. So go check those out and go to grahamelwood.com, sign up for the newsletter. Meow, meow.
Later, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.